News First, Newsline with Faraz Ali.
And a splendid morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And I couldn't work it out, but I think it was a middling morning in terms of the weather. It was sort of dampish, but it didn't actually rain. So that's good news, I guess. Now then, this morning, to discuss all sorts of matters politically orientated and with a political leaning, we have two journalists. One, of course, is the ever-smiling 2020 presidential candidate, he says, at some point, Malinda Seniratnam. And the other is a guest, is a former colleague of Malinda, and needs little introduction because he's been part of this show right from the beginning. And that is, of course, Shamindra and Malinda. Very good morning to you, gentlemen. Good morning to you, Faraz. Now then, I just thought I'd ask you about this 20th Amendment business, Malinda. Why now? There's only about 18 months to go now.
In April 2015, President Maithripala Sirisena, addressing an SLFP rally, said we will somehow get the 20th Amendment through.
Right.
He was referring to a different 20th Amendment. That was about electoral reform, which never really materialized.
Right.
Now it's about abolishing the executive presidency, and it has been brought by the Janata Vimukthi Peramuna, JVP. About a week or two ago, Tisarni Munasekar, a well-known columnist, said that this government has failed, and there is a danger of the Rajapaksas coming in, and she was hinting that the solution to this is to get rid of the executive presidency, because within Gotabaya Rajapaksa or any other Rajapaksa who may have presidential aspirations will be blocked out by that. And that's a sentiment that has been echoed by Gamini Biyangoda, also a strong supporter of this government. So the rhetoric so far is not about the importance or some logic for abolishing the executive presidency, but the political fortunes of the incumbents and how that might be affected by the executive presidency remaining. So it is not about good governance, getting a better system in place.
This is all about them.
It's about basic crass politics.
Right. And Shamindra Ferdinand, what do you say? Well, how will this all affect the man who is fighting to complete his first ever full term in Parliament as the Prime Minister, Ranil Wickremesinghe? How will it all affect him?
Faraz, you must realize that the original plan was to introduce a new constitution here. That was the reason the US-supported coalition brought Mr. Sirisena into power in January 2015. So if you go through Geneva records, you will see that there's a proposal, there's a recommendation by the international community. When I say international community, I am talking, referring to Western powers, that they wanted a new constitution in Sri Lanka. So that was the idea. Now having failed that, they wanted 20th Amendment, in the interim, to dilute powers of executive president. Right, that will pave the way for a stronger administration in the Northern Province.
All sounds rather undemocratic to me when a foreign power, another country, seeks to impose their vision on our little country. But it's ours.
Faraz, you know that the people of this country must be allowed to elect a president. Now, according to the 20th Amendment, the Parliament is to receive that power. Now, why on earth we allow Parliament with all these tainted people, people who had taken money from Aloysius, the PTL, then various other...
They didn't take money so far from PTL or from Aloysius, because one person says he didn't know who on earth Walton Rowe was.
Faraz, people of this country, Sinhalese, Muslims, Tamils, do not want members of Parliament to elect a president. If they do not want this presidency, just abolish it.
But then that's the right of the people to decide.
Then it has to come,
they must come in a referendum.
But taking off from something that Shamindra said, see, if you can't talk about one element of constitutional reform forgetting the rest of it.
Yes.
You can take away the executive presidency if it's a burden and all that.
Yeah.
But you must remember that we already have the 13th Amendment.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons the executive presidency was the countervailing factor.
Right.
Right? Otherwise you have a very weak state.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a greater threat of this country getting divided. As for the question you asked about foreign powers, that's very undemocratic.
Yeah.
The 13th Amendment itself was thrust down our throats. We never asked for it. It was one man's decision in agreement with the Prime Minister of a different country.
Yeah.
That was not put before the people. He had the majority in Parliament. So 220 out of 225 people, a certain number had to decide whether we are going to have the 13th Amendment. It was illegally brought in. We should mention that also. Sir. No, that is also foreign intervention. That is not democratic. But having that, the only countervailing factor is the executive presidency. So you can't, take away one without taking away the other.
No, the executive presidency itself has played a very vital role in this particular government, in this good governance government time.
Good governance?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Well, there's no good governance, but they called it that, so I must use the right, I must be politically correct, right? Otherwise people won't know what on earth I'm talking about. Right, so now, if we didn't have the president, we wouldn't have the Presidential Commission of Inquiry. And yes, it has come pretty late in the day, but it's come. And the level of detail, the details that's come out of this probe has been astounding, because we've seen how far the tentacles of patronage has reached. And it was astonishing at the beginning and almost unbelievable to the wider public that the central bank was at the center of such a fraud. And this has been described as the greatest financial fraud to afflict the people of this country since independence by none other than the Attorney General's Department in during those proceedings I call. Now the thing is that with all of this that's going on, it is that one subject that dominates the headlines. It was called Bond 118, which is some sort of call sign, and now it's become Bond 166. What's the real story here?
I really don't know, Faraz. Kirti Tennakon talks about 118. That's on the basis of what Jayasekara said.
Yeah.
But the Janata Yukti Perumuna former MP Vasanta Samarsingh, he talks about 166, right? But the issue,
members of Parliament.
no, I think they're talking about individuals who had received money, including members of Parliament. But the issue here for us is that now they have sort of restricted this issue to members of Parliament and other corrupt personalities and PTM. But I think over the years, members of Parliament received bribes from donations or whatever from various firms, companies. Now see, we pointed out recently that the US aid distributed $3.4 million in Colombo after the presidential election. Now, who received this money? Now, we are talking about big money. Then there was this statement issued from USA, Washington, I think in 2016, when the Secretary of State, John Kerry, he declared that they have spent over $580 million in Burma, Sri Lanka and Nigeria to restore democracy. Now, to restore democracy, did they provide money to any political party or any individuals? Now see, when you compare the figures, when you compare the funds made available by the NGOs and foreign powers with 1 million rupees received by Mr. Jayasekara is nothing. But the issue today is for us, there are serious complaints against some members of the COPE and they should be investigated. Instead, they have reappointed the same people to the COPE And now recently on Sunday, there's Jayasekara. I'm not making any allegations, but there are allegations against him, but he was made the vice president of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party last Sunday. Now, if you talk or boast or say that the president appointed this personal commission and took certain action, now why can't they wait till Dayasri Jayasekara face an inquiry or whatever without making this appointment?
But Dayasri Jayasekara, as you say, it's 1 million, and then he says this is part of this is part of a political donation.
Faraz, what you must keep in mind is this, that the money was received in July 2015.
That's the point I'm trying to make here.
That's amidst huge media campaign against this.
Yes.
I mean, Sirius and other private television stations, the print media, all were talking about it. But still, they were, that they got that money.
That's right, and that was the point I was trying to make. That these monies were not paid. They were paid, let's say, around July, during the
July 13, 2015.
Yes, during the campaign, if you like, in Parliament. But by July, it was very much evident that there was
wrongdoing.
There was some wrongdoing. We had a COPE that was in place, and it became rather clear to anyone who followed the proceedings that at the epicenter was somebody called Arjuna Mahendran and his son-in-law, the unfortunate Arjuna Aloysius, and a company called Perpetual, and Mendis and all this. It was all very much in the public domain. So it's a little bit rich for these people to claim that this as well, it was fine because it was a political donation. Then what about these people inside remand? Drug dealers, drug distributors. Have they been paying money to politicians? And they could take the view, oh well, they're only in remand, and therefore not convicted.
Faraz, now you have to keep in mind that that particular COPE report was quashed.
Yes.
The first one by the dissolution of Parliament.
Correct.
The President and the Prime Minister are complicit
in that. Indeed.
And therefore, we have to wonder, why did they do this?
Yes.
The donation part is only one element of this whole drama.
Yeah.
And of course, the US spending money like this for democracy.
Yeah.
And now they're complaining that Russia was trying to rig their election.
Yeah.
This is election rigging.
Yes.
You're not letting the people of this country, of their own free will, decide who should be running this country.
Yeah, right. Now then, this is a good point here. But what I want to say is this, that it appears to me that there is a concerted effort at taking away the focus on the actual bond scam, which is that the central bank issued the 1 billion became 10, and then there was the inaction of the minister in charge of the subject of the central bank, Ranil Wickremesinghe, because he did absolutely nothing apart from remind his friend to ensure that there was no conflict of interest, and then he failed in his duty, and he has a duty of care which he failed miserably by not following through on those instructions. He relied, according to the Commission of Inquiry, he relied on the assurances given to him by Mahendran and Mr. P. Samarasiri on that issue. So he failed to act, and because of his failure to act, something even worse happened, and that was that a year later, almost a year later, in March 2016, they did a few more bonds, which was far more than this. And right now, there seems to be an effort to shift away that focus from something called the 118 list. It's not a bus or something like that. And now it's become 166.
You're saying that that's a distraction.
That's a distraction, isn't it? A distraction?
Obviously.
And I think that Austin Fernando, for all that he is and has been, has deliberately is playing a lead role in this whole matter. I'm told, I have nothing, I can't confirm it, but I'm told that this list, this 118 number, came from him to one of these people who were named.
I read that he had denied that he knows anything about 118 or
right.
this, but that he has after consulting the Attorney General, he has submitted all the documents, some 8,000 pages or documents to the National Archives. But we are seeing, when you look at state media especially, they are focusing on Dayasiri Jayasekara or the numbers game that they are playing, 118. And I think knowingly or unknowingly the NGOs are getting involved in it. And they are also playing it up. Where, as you rightly said, the focus is on the theft.
That's right.
Not about some little few pennies from that.
Exactly. It is a few pennies when you consider that the amount in question, according to Vasant Samar Singh, is 1,190 million or nearly 1.2 billion lying around in one account. And I say this almost flippantly because this 1.2 billion is absolutely nothing. It's less than what they would have found in the petty cash box. When you consider that the CEO of Perpetual found that one of his colleagues had left on his seat, on his chair, 100 million rupee bonus. They had no respect for money. And how can they have respect for money, Shamindra, when this money has been thieved from somewhere? They didn't have to work for it.
No, but Faraz see it in a different way, that they were making investments, right? The Perpetual Treasuries
were making investments in what? In corruption.
Obviously, you take the way operated, not only that particular company, but most of the other companies also involved in this game. You know that they fund political parties, they fund selected politicians, they fund NGOs, they fund civil society groups. You know, because they have objectives now. When the US got into this game here in 2010, having accused General Fonseca of, having accused General Fonseca, the army, of killing over 40,000 Tamil civilians, they instructed the Tamil National Alliance to vote for General Fonseca, and the Tamils did actually. You know, if you take the vote in the Jaffna electoral district, Kilinochi, Mulattivu, and all the Tamil areas, districts, the Tamils voted for him. Now, they themselves accused Fonseca's army of killing people, Fonseca's army. Right? So the same project, the same people got together and supported Mr. Sirisena. Right? So it's Faraz's numbers, whether it's 166.
It doesn't matter, does it?
It does not matter. Now, it's like about 40,000 in Geneva, right? 40,000 in Geneva, that we have been accused of killing 40,000 people. Now, the British Parliament was told that was not correct, right? It was challenged. It was challenged in House of Commons. But what happened? The same allegation remains in Geneva, right? So, but what I see is that the community, the people are divided, a lot of things happening in this country. Why the project in this country?
I want to keep focusing on this point here, that this 166 or 118 doesn't really matter. What matters, and this money that this 166 or 118 or whatever got was quite insignificant compared to the overall, the bigger picture. And we have to remember this, that those people who were at this, for all intents and purposes, it was an unauthorized meeting. It was a meeting outside of process and procedure, when the band of men got together and met at the central bank in what is now been called the infamous breakfast meeting. I do wish somebody would write a book and hurry up and do it, because it will make a bestseller. You know, at this breakfast meeting, there was Malik Samaravikrama, who claimed later that he was there as the advisor to the Prime Minister. Right, okay. But what was his speciality with bonds? What does he know about bonds? Right? I'm told that he's an accountant, but you know, all accountants are not.
Faraz.
And all of them.
All these meetings, Faraz.
They all later came out, and this is the point I'm trying to make. They all came out and defended Arjuna Mahendran and this whole bond scam. These people were right there at the beginning. They designed it, when they planned it, they designed it, they executed it, and they enjoyed the spoils. And they defended the process all along.
Faraz, you only focus on this issue. See what had happened in 2002. The UMP administration reached an agreement with Norway, right? Without consulting the president, without informing the parliament, without informing the cabinet. they signed a ceasefire agreement under which we agreed to give control of over 15,000 acres, I mean square kilometers or whatever, to the LTT, right? So, the politicians in this country, they simply do not consult people, right? So, but today the focus,
I hear what you say, but I want to draw your gentleman's attention to a statement made by one Kabir Hashim yesterday. Well, I saw it on the news yesterday. And in that he says that he doesn't need to do all this.
Yes,
it's almost a Kirialla type of answer.
I have my own
yes,
wealth.
My parents, the money
that
that
he
my
offered
parents...
to give money to
yes,
PTL.
and he offered to pay a PTL. Well, I'd like to take that as a member of the public. I'd like to take him up on that offer, because guess what? All the money that PTL are paying, all these lawyers and so on, and all the smart cars and homes that these people maintain, is all due to this money that they robbed, shamelessly robbed from the people of this country. And the primary hit was done on these EPF funds. And it is those monies that are going to these lawyers. So yes, Mr. Kabir Hashim, would you kindly dip into your father's reserves and your mum's reserves, because you say so, and start paying the legal fees, so that the people will have a little bit more money left when eventually justice takes its course and we can get these monies returned to the consolidated fund, hopefully.
Faraz, now...
did Kabir Hashim's father and mother really make so much of money?
Well, only he would know, and the parents and the family. I have no idea. I am not...
well, his brother-in-law certainly has got a nice smart car that ended up in a lake.
We don't need to be distracted by all
No.
that. But when you said the unfortunate Arjuna Lash, he's not unfortunate.
Not unfortunate.
He's fortunate.
Yes.
He's fortunate because he had his father-in-law in the right place.
But unfortunate because his father-in-law has abandoned him in remand.
That is the subsequent thing.
Yeah.
He made his bucks, with which he was able to pay the lawyers, buy purchase companies, pay off politicians, NGOs, whoever.
Make investments in
But you got to the right point.
Yeah.
That infamous breakfast meeting, that is where the focus should be.
Indeed.
What business did they have to be there in the first place?
Yes.
And why did they continue to defend Arjuna Mahendran and to essentially give him a blank check?
Yeah.
Give him a clean bill of health, a character certificate and all that. And so that in the following year, the same thing happened.
Exactly.
So they knew about this. Or else we have to conclude. We have to conclude that every single person who was at that meeting are incompetent morons.
Yes.
But they didn't know.
No,
Because they were ignorant.
but they had a speciality. Malik Samaravikrama obviously had some speciality. He was representing the Prime Minister. Sorry, but it's his admission. And I don't have to interpret it. He said to a journalist that he was there as the representative, as the ambassador of the Prime Minister, because of course he was too busy to show his face there, right? And all of them got together and they defended this right up to the end, even when President Sirisena turned up at the central bank and was trying to appoint somebody else, who trotted in like a little lamb very quickly in his car was Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Faraz, I think that this meeting is a distraction, right? It's simple. It's very simple. Just establish the day and the person who decided to change the system.
We don't need to do that because it is
so
there.
That's where
it is there for everybody to see.
That's
it
where
was on the 17th of March. So Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe felt that this story that was being broken in a very wide way by News First, they obviously felt a great need to come in there and defend themselves. It was so great a need that the Prime Minister of this country, serving his by then, it was the third term by then, and went on to get a fourth term, he decided to come and tell the truth, hopefully, and he said, I insisted that we change the system. There you have it.
Right. So far
yesterday
as
we
this
played
meeting is immaterial. So the day the Honorable Prime Minister instructed
He can't be honourable. I'm sorry, I'm going to go down
Mahendran to change the system. That was a very corrupt, instruction, right?
Yes.
And subsequently, after two scams took place, they reverted to the same old system, right?
But I'm sorry,
so
but the Presidential Commission of Inquiry made me laugh when I read that part of the report, or whatever you call it. It said there, they kind of downplayed the Prime Minister's instructions by saying that there is no evidence that Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe issued instructions to Arjuna Mahendran to break the rules.
Maybe the Commission of Inquiry...
When you look at it with cold neutrality and only that statement, it makes perfect sense.
Actually, Ministers Harsha De Silva and Iran Wickremaratne called a special briefing at the Information Department subsequently and announced the restoration of the old system, right? So,
but they reverted back to
the old system after having consulted the US Treasury.
We must remember again, and I mentioned it yesterday as well, that it was the late Governor A.S. Jayawardena who brought an element of commerciality to the bonds, and they expanded the market. And there was a system in place since 1997, and that system went on happily until February 2015, when one Ranil Wickremesinghe admitted that some weeks earlier he wanted a change, and he'd instructed his mate, Arjuna Mahendran, to change the system.
Faraz, now we are almost at the end of our program, I think. I want to say this. Should not we now consider this government, everyone knew about it, to be corrupt?
Absolutely.
And that they don't care about
government. It's Sirisena Wickremesinghe.
They are political Siamese twins. They can't shift the blame from one to the other. They are joined at the hip or wherever.
That's right.
And that they know nothing about good governance. They don't care about good governance. They have betrayed the trust that the people placed on them, and they do not deserve to be re-elected. What would you say, Shamindra?
I think those
Malinda must tell you, this government betrayed our armed forces, right? A government that betrayed its own armed forces, right? There's no point in talking about them. As simple as that.
Yes, but apart from the armed forces, they betrayed, I think, Malinda got it right on the head, and hit the nail right on its head when he said that they betrayed the trust of the people of this country. They robbed right where it hurts the most. These are hard-earned monies of the people, and the war is the war and all that. But we need it very much to move on, and they misled all of us. They gave us false promises. They said hurrah, 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 and then the Prime Minister had the cheek to come into Parliament and then say cow the hurrah. I do wish that I had a few buttons here I can press it and remind you at the sharp and sort of childish manner in which the Prime Minister rose there and destroyed the little vestiges left of our pride in Parliament when he did this and said cow the hurrah. It's terrible. But, gentlemen, guess what? All good things have come to an end, and this half an hour has come to an end. I don't believe it, but I do have checked the clock here, and it is in fact finished, and I've got Harshan in my ear saying we're finished. So, thank you very much, gentlemen, and we hope that you all will, in your many writings and so on, focus on the matter at hand, which is that the 1 billion became 10, and there's a huge loss to the people of this country. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I wanted to ask you another question, but I can't now. I'll do it on the radio. That's the way it was on Newsline. Take care and God bless.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.